Peace, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about somebody. It's going to be a Forever Flowers. I'm going to be talking about somebody that I feel like is a good fit for the next video on my Forever Flowers series to talk about. You guys loved my Brandon Quentin Adams video so much that I thought the next person in my talk on this platform should be about somebody who was very close to Brandon, who came up in the industry around the same time and had their own episodes on similar sitcoms together, and were just very good friends from the jump, and that is Merlin Santana. Now, this is going to be an edition of Forever Flowers, the Rest in Power edition. As we know, sadly, Merlin Santana died in 2002 of a shootout in a car. And we'll get to that, of course. But I just wanted to say rest in power to Merlin Santana. And you were taken way before your time, King. Way before your time. I feel like you had so much more life to give us in your roles that you would play. But I'm here today to celebrate your life and what you brought to us during the time that you were able to. So Merlin Santana was an American actor and rapper. Santana was best known for his role as Rudy Huxtable's boyfriend Stanley on The Cosby Show, Marcus Dixon on Getting By, Marcus Henry in Under One Roof, and as a high school student Romeo Santana on the WB sitcom The Steve Harvey Show. So yes, Merlin Santana was at a lot of your faves. He was a lot in my faves. He guest starred in a lot of shows when we were growing up in the 90s. And he finally, in the mid to late 90s, got his first reoccurring starring role in the WB sitcom The Steve Harvey Show as Romeo. And that was really, really great for him. I was really glad that he got that role. And it's sad to think of the roles that we missed out on because of what happened. Now, I'm going to talk about his life, the roles that he was able to play on screen for us. And when I get to the end about his untimely passing, I will talk briefly about that. But there are definitely different documentaries and other people's videos, I'm sure, on YouTube and other places where you can find more information about what actually happened. I'm just going to talk about general details of what happened. But the reason I'm bringing this back to Brandon Quentin Adams is because they were very close in the industry, and believe it or not, Brandon Adams was actually in the car with Merlin Santana when he got shot, and Brandon got shot as well. Thankfully, Brandon was able to live, but Merlin Santana was not. So I just want to bring that connection, and I'll talk about the connection more as I go along. But yeah, sad, really, really sad. But let's lighten it up and talk about his life and the roles that he gave us during his time on Earth. So Merlin Santana was born in New York City to parents from the Dominican Republic. Santana's career in show business began with a push from his parents who wanted to keep him off the tough streets of New York City. He began his career at the age of 3 as an advertising model for a fast food chain. His first screen appearance was an extra in the Woody Allen film The Purple Rose of Cairo. In 1991, Santana landed a recurring role on The Cosby Show as Stanley, the boyfriend of Rudy Huxtable and the rival of Rudy's best friend, Kenny. He was then cast as Marcus Dixon in the short-lived sitcom Getting By, starring Cindy Williams and Thelma Hopkins. Dion Richard was cast as his brother, Darren, due to their interaction on The Cosby Show. In November 1994, Santana appeared on Sister Sister as Joey, in which he falls in love with Tia and Tamara at Rocket Burger. In 1995, Santana was cast as Marcus Henry in the short-lived CBS family drama Under One Roof, co-starring with James Earl Jones, Joe Morton, and Vanessa Bell Calloway. Between 1996 and 1999, he played the role of Ohaji on Moishe. In 1996, he landed the role of Romeo Santana on The Steve Harvey Show. In 2001, he played the role of Jermaine in the movie Flossin'. In 2002, he appeared in the VH1 TV movie Played, a hip-hop story with Toni Braxton. The same year, Santana had a role in the Eddie Murphy comedy Showtime. His last television acting role was on the UPN series Half and Half. His last film role was a 2003 comedy film, The Blues, with Dion Richmond. So yeah, he was in a lot of shows and a lot of things in the 90s that were super iconic, that we all can look back at and say, wow, Merlin Santana was in like a lot of stuff. So to start off, of course, we know him as Rudy's boyfriend on The Cosby Show and the rival to Kenny. And basically, he was on The Cosby Show as Stanley, and he was playing Rudy's boyfriend. And this was around 91 when the show was on its like 8th season, and it was on its way out. And I remember the first time we saw Stanley, and the reason that Rudy and him fell in love was because Stanley was in the class that Theo was teaching while he was going to college, right? And he was like at one of those after school programs, helping teach the kids and help them with their homework and all of that. And something that I really liked about Stanley's character when I first learned about him was the fact that he had dyslexia. With Theo, we learned in a previous episode in a different season, like I think season 7 or 6, we learned when he first goes to college that Theo has dyslexia. And as a person who has dyslexia, and reading and writing and math and all of that is pretty hard for me, I was so happy when they did that episode, because there aren't a lot of TV shows that talk about kids with dyslexia, especially black kids with dyslexia, because that's a whole nother thing. And I'm really glad they had an episode where they could talk about Theo having dyslexia and what it meant and how it can make your life kind of hectic. You know, having dyslexia can be a hard thing in your life, but it's also something that is a challenge, but it can also be very rewarding. Because when you find out you have dyslexia, the world just opens up to so many possibilities, because it helps you know, oh, all these years that I thought I was just dumb, or I was lazy, or I just couldn't figure out what was going on with school, you learn, oh, this is the reason why I'm having these problems. And then when you learn that there are techniques and things you can do in your life to help you figure out these problems, it's so much easier, like so much easier. The day I found out I had dyslexia was the best day of my life, and I was able to really go forward in my academic life in middle school and high school. Really, really, it helped a lot, and I was just so happy. I got a lot of help and all of these things. But back to, Merlin Santana. So Theo is doing this after school program with the kids, and he learns that Merlin Santana is having problems in school. Stanley's having problems in school, and he takes Stanley aside and helps him with his reading, because he tells him, I have dyslexia too. I just found this out, but I have dyslexia too, and I understand, how hard it can be, reading and writing and all these things. So I am here to help you. I know you're a smart kid, and I know that you have the capability to be, this really great student, and I'm here to help you. And I loved that so much. I loved that Theo was there for him to help him through that difficulty. Fast forward, I think either Rudy comes to one of Theo's after school things, or maybe they have like an art show or something, and some kind of way Rudy and Stanley meet each other, right? And they instantly fall in love. Well, cutesy little dating, puppy love, but they start to go out. And it bothers Kenny. And I don't actually know why it bothers Kenny, because it's not like they ever were like, yeah, Rudy and Kenny, we're going to be a couple. Like, when they'd have those little arguments back in the day when they were young and cute, it was like for the cutie's sake of it. It wasn't like they were like, oh yeah, Kenny and Rudy were going to fall in love or anything. Like, that was just not going to happen. But, I mean, whatever. So, when Stanley and Rudy start dating, it really bothers Kenny. But I think it was just that Kenny was a little jealous that, Stanley was taking all of Rudy's time, which makes sense when you're best friends with somebody. But in the end, they start hanging out and everything's cool. And that was actually the first role we saw Merlin Santana in when he was on The Cosby Show, which was really great for him because, he got to play in one of the number one, shows on TV at the time. And even though it was about to end, in a year, it still had a lot of life in it. And to get a role on The Cosby Show is A1 from day one. You were going to be a star. So automatically, anything else he did was going to be superstar status because he was on The Cosby Show, right? And that goes to his connection with Brandon Adams. Brandon Adams got to be on a few episodes of A Different World. Now, he was only guest starring on that show, and that was way before, Merlin Santana would be on The Cosby Show. But they both were on Cosby produced shows, so it worked, there's a connection there. After he would play Stanley on The Cosby Show, he would go on to appear in 1994 in an episode of Sister Sister as Joey. And I just recently watched this episode, so it's fresh in my mind. He played, so basically he was this guy. He came into Rocket Burger because the girls were working at that fast food place during season 2, right? And so they were working at Rocket Burger, and basically he walks in, he sees Tia on the slide because he's cleaning the slide because there's throw up on there. So she's cleaning the slide, so he's talking to Tia, and they're having this conversation. He goes inside, and Tamara is at the cash register, and he doesn't know that they're twins. So he's like, wow, this is one person. So they keep having interactions with him one-on-one, during the day. And so they both get asked out on a date by him, but he doesn't know that they're twins. So he asks both of them out, right? And so when he comes to pick both of them up at their house, not knowing it's not two people, but thinking it's one, they have to go on a date together. The twins have to go on a date together with Joey. But in the end, Joey ends up picking Tia as the girl he wants to go out with, which, poor Tamira. But, it was just it was really cute. I thought it was a really cute episode. And Sister Sister had some of the greatest guest stars when it came to guys, and again, Brandon Adams, like I talked about in my Forever Flowers on Brandon Adams, he would play in Sister Sister as well as Michael, Tia's boyfriend. So again, full circle. That wouldn't happen till later in season 2, I think, and season 3, but it all comes full circle, baby, full circle. And then after that, in 1995, he would play Marcus Henry in the short-lived CBS family drama Under One Roof. And then he would play from 1996 to 1999. He will play the role of Ohaji on Moishe. Now, I did an episode of my series Black Sitcom Mukbang on Moishe. You should go check that out. But basically, on Moishe, Merlin Santana played this guy named Ohaji, and he played that character recurring throughout the first season. And I think he had an episode in season 2, and there was an episode during season 4 as well. During season 1, he was Moesha's first heartbreak. He was her first boyfriend. Well, this was before Frank Mitchell wanted her to date, so it was a boyfriend that she snuck around with. But there was an episode where, in the very first episode, basically, they were sneaking around and having these dates and whatever. And Ohaji and Moishe were sneaking around. And basically, Ohaji gave Moishe her first kiss. And it was real romantic. But then, and also Ohaji was this, I don't want to call him a hotep, but he's on the verge, right? And he's this poet and back to Africa type guy. You know what I'm talking about. And he was one of those. And he wrote a whole poem for Moesha and buttered her up. But then had the nerve to just basically cheat on her. Even though they weren't exclusive or boyfriend and girlfriend, he still should not have been messing around with other women And around the time that Moishe was like there, like she went and she defied D, went to the den, and then went to go see his player, but do his little routine, his little, poem, and then had the nerve in front of Moishe to just be kissing on another girl. Wrong, just so wrong. But yeah, that happens and all of that. And then he would be on another episode in season 4, which again, Brandon Adams connection. They would be on the same episode because Moishe would also date Brandon Adams' character, and she would almost lose her virginity to him. That's in my episode on Brandon Adams. Please go check that out. But basically, Moishe has this 18th birthday, and her friends and family all invite all her previous boyfriends to her birthday party. So like Q ends up there, Brandon Adams' character, Ohaji, all these people, right? Usher, all these people. And so that's the episode where they end up together. And what's funny about it is that they're like, Mo, pick somebody, right? And Moishe's like, nah, what if I don't want any of y'all? And they're just like, forget you then. And they all go play 2K together. And I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Like, I was like, yeah, exactly. Forget Moishe. Go play, go bond, be boys, whatever. That was so funny to me. I love that. But yeah, he played Ohaji on there, and we love to see it. I mean, again, another show where Moishe had all the best guest stars when it came to guys that she dated. Like, we love to see it. It's great. Shout out to Ohaji. You a player, you a hotep, but we love you just the same. And then in 1996, he would get his biggest role to date, which is the role of Romeo Santana on the Steve Harvey Show. Now, as of making this Forever Flowers, I have not seen all of the episodes of the Steve Harvey Show. I know, shocker. But from what I have seen, I do like his character on there. I thought it was great. I'm so glad he got to have a reoccurring starring role on the show, and it really took him to grand heights during that time. After he would end the Steve Harvey Show, he would go on to play Jermaine in the movie Flossin', and in 2002 he would appear in the VH1 movie Played, a hip-hop story with Toni Braxton, and then he would be in the Eddie Murphy comedy Showtime, and his last known TV role is on the UPN series Half and Half, and his last film role was in the 2003 comedy film The Blues with Dionne Richmond. The thing about Dionne Richmond and Merlin Santana is that they actually have been in a couple of projects together, and the one thing I love about Merlin Santana is that he got to play with his friends. So like him and Dionne Richmond played on the Cosby Show together, and then they would play in different other things together, like Getting By, which they played together. Like Dionne Richmond was his brother in that show, and he would be in The Blues with Dionne Richmond. So there were lots of things where those two overlapped, and the same with Brandon Adams. They overlapped in a lot of things, and so it was really great that he got to hang out with his boys. He got to be in reoccurring roles with them. I mean, Dionne Richmond, even later on in his career, would go on to be Tamara's boyfriend on Sister Sister. So it all comes full circle. Like, it really all comes from full circle, okay? Now's the heartbreaking and depressing part that I have to talk about. And I don't want to talk about this part. Like, this part is not something that I like to talk about when it comes to these Forever Flowers. But sadly, this is something that just, if you're going to talk about Merlin Santana, you have to talk about this. And it's something that just breaks my heart, honestly. But we have to talk about it if we're going to talk about him. And just keep it a G. Keep it a buck. Okay? So, on November 9th, 2002, Santana was shot in the head and killed as he and his best friend, former child actor Brandon Quinton Adams, were in a car leaving another man's home in Crenshaw district of Los Angeles. Damian Andrew Gates fired the shot that entered through the trunk of the vehicle in which Santana was a passenger. The bullet penetrated the right front passenger headrest and entered Santana's head, killing him instantly. Gates was convicted of the first-degree murder of Santana and the attempted murder of Adams and was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences plus 70 years in prison. Brandon Douglas Baines received a 23-year sentence after pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter and assault with a deadly weapon, even though none of the shots fired from his revolver entered the vehicle. An officer involved in the case testified that Monique King, reportedly Gates' girlfriend, who was age 15 at the time of Santana's death, falsely claimed that Santana made sexual advances towards her, which prompted Gates and Baines' attack. King was found guilty of second-degree murder and attempted murder, but acquitted on 2 murder charges, receiving 10 years in juvie. Santana was 26 years old at the time of his death. He was buried on November 18, 2002 at St. Raymond's Cemetery in the Bronx, New York. So yeah, that part I don't like talking about. That part breaks my heart. And you know what really breaks my heart about this situation? Which is what broke my heart about a similar situation that happened only a few years ago. I remember that it was like a video. It went super viral. And it was of this kid who ended up in this corner store, right? And he was trying to get help from the cashier or the clerk or whoever. And he wouldn't help him, right? And it was this like Latinx kid, and he was trying to get help from the clerk. And he was not helping him. And later it came out that he was trying to help him, but the kid ended up running out of the store. And he was being chased by these thugs, right? It was this kid. I don't remember his name. But I remember that it was a story about very similar circumstances, right? This girl was having underage sex with these guys, right? And I guess maybe her boyfriend or somebody found out and got really pissed. And so once they found out that she basically framed this innocent kid in the neighborhood. And these gangbangers were coming after him and basically killed him. Like, I think it was like a lot of shots or knives or something. And basically, he had to make his way to the hospital, but by the time he got there, he was already dead. And he like wanted to be in the ROCT and all these things. He wanted to be a police officer, like all of these things. He wanted to really make a good life for himself. And he was killed over some nonsense. And it's just really, really, really sad. Really, 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 really sad. Like, really, really sad. And it's like, I don't understand. Framing people who are innocent is so dirty. It's dirty. It's so dirty. Like, I think that's one of the most despicable things on earth. First of all, I think it's despicable that these older men, because I don't care if you're in your 20s, early 20s, late teens, whatever, you're now considered a man, technically, in my eyes. Like, 18 and up, you are considered a man. So you having underage sex with underage girls, and sometimes they're running trains on them and all this craziness, and then the girl feels pressured when it comes out to frame somebody else because either they have a boyfriend or their fathers or somebody finds out, and then they feel that they need to frame somebody else to do it, and then these guys come after them and kill innocent people. Merlin Santana did not need to die. That kid from the corner store video did not need to die. It's such a tragedy, and I just hate to hear about it. I hate it so much. It is the saddest thing. Rest in power to Merlin Santana. Rest in power to this kid. It is a tragedy, and I know it happens more often than we actually find out about, and it makes me just want to cry because I just feel like it is just one of the most evil things you can possibly do. Evil. It's just straight up evil. And I know she was only 15 at the time when all of this went down, but she still should have really been serving some time. I know she's a minor, But they should have kept her in juvie as long as they could until she turned 18 and then sent her into the penitentiary. I'm sorry. She does not deserve, just because she's a woman, just because she's a girl, she did her crime and she needs to live with it. This is her fault. This is her fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is your fault. Okay? I know we want to have sympathy because she was young. She probably didn't know what she was doing. And I totally get that. But at the same time, you had some inkling of what you were doing, sis. I don't want to hear that. And to really frame somebody else is just wrong. It's just wrong. I know you were nervous. I know you were scared. I get it. But it's still just, it's wrong to me. And I'll never understand. I will never in my life understand. I know I get heated about this type of stuff, but he was only 26. I think about the amount of people who have impacted my life, whether it be acting, singing, rapping, anything, who have died just so young, where they had so much more life to give. And it just makes me so sad. Just so incredibly sad. But like I said, I don't want to get too like depressing on this, but it's just it breaks my heart, honey. It really breaks my heart. But I just hope that all of Merlin Santana's fans just go back and really just watch all his movies and watch all his guest starring roles on TV shows and watch the Steve Harvey show and really just give a lot of love and light to that poor man who just did not deserve to die. So here is a list of some of the roles that Merlin Santana had been in during his time on Earth. In 1991, he was in Major Dad. In 1991, he was also in Law and Order. In 1991, he was in the cabinet of Dr. Ramirez. In 1991 to 1992, he was in The Cosby Show as Stanley. In 1992, he was in The Line of Duty, Street War. In 1993 to 1994, he was in Getting By. In 1994, he guest starred on Sister as Joey. In 1995, he was in Under One Roof. In 1995, he was also in Street Gear. In 1995 to 1996, he was in a couple episodes of Hanging with Mr. Cooper as Calvin. In 1996, he was in Harvey. In 1996 to 1999, he was in Moishe as Ohaji. In 1996 to 2002, he was in The Steve Harvey Show. In 1997, he was in NYPD Blue. In 2001, he was in Flossin'. In 2002, he was in Showtime. In 2002, he was in Jag. In 2002, he was in Played, A Hip Hop Story. In 2002, he was in Half and Half. And in 2003, he was in The Blues. So yeah, Merlin Santana, you deserved better. You deserve to still be here. Brandon Quinton Adams is in his 40s right now, and he's looking better than ever. But you deserve to be right there with him. Dion Richmond, still going. You deserve to be right there with your brothers. And I feel it is so incredibly sad what has happened to you. And I just... rest in power, my brother. Rest in power, King. Like, honestly, you did not deserve it. And I honestly just feel so bad every time I think about your death. I just can't. It makes me mad. It makes me sad. And I still just feel like you were just taken way too soon. Way too soon. And I just have to say that I am so glad that Brandon Quinton Adams is still here to live on your legacy every single day. Like, I am just so glad, because that was heartbreaking. And yeah. Sorry, this episode's a little depressing, but I had to talk about the man, the beauty, the roles of Merlin Santana. And it has a sad ending, but honestly, you were so incredible in life that I hope you're resting so powerfully in death. So this was just my forever flowers on Merlin Santana. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry, it was a little bit all over the place, but this episode, I really just didn't, like, I knew I was going to have to do this episode eventually, but I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do it to remember him, of course, But I didn't want to have to talk about his death. And it chokes me up, and I just get real emotional. So rest in power, my brother. Till next time, peace and blessings.